Hello, I'm Kate Davis, and this is Humor in the C-Suite, a show about how leaders use humor to create an extraordinary work culture. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Humor in the C-Suite. My guest this week is Scott Burgmeyer. He is the founder and CEO of Become More Group, which is a reflection of who Scott is. Scott's early career followed a very traditional path: good first job, better second job, followed by a great corporate opportunity. And within a few years, that big corporate opportunity was pushing Scott out of his comfort zone. So the organization was content with his performance, but Scott wasn't. So he formed the Creative Solutions Group in 2010. Scott followed that up with the seed of desire for more with relentless curiosity, hard work, and 8 years of personal discovery, growth, and self development. That journey included roles in HR, safety, food safety, and continuous improvement, and included stints with a family owned business, as well as rapid growth technology, Fortune 50 manufacturing, and higher education organizations. In 2018, Scott harnessed all of that experience and focused full time on the Creative Solutions Group. In 2018, Scott co authored the first of 4 books and continued Creative Solutions Group growth. In 2021, Scott, along with Tammy, completed his first corporate acquisition and their 5th book. And in 2023, Scott and Tammy formalized their merger and they became the Became More Woo group. Oh my God, we had a great conversation. You guys are going to love him. And I love this episode because it's all about the moments of silence when we don't laugh. So it was really interesting for me. You guys are going to love our conversation and you're going to love Scott even more. Hello, Scott, and welcome to Humor in the C-Suite.
Oh, good morning, Kate. I'm super happy to be here. And I get to pretend that I'm funny because we're supposed to be human.
Well, I love your story. I just thought we would just start off by telling our audience what you've done and what you're doing now. When you go through your bio, it's always like 2006, met Tammy. Like it's just so like genuine and loving. And so I just want everyone to know what you've done and what you're doing now.
Boy, that's a big question. Now, I think the highlights I usually talk about is I always joke that I quote grew up in manufacturing. I spent 30 years in manufacturing at big companies and small companies. Spent a few years in technology, and then had a chance to kind of really go full time in consulting and I jokingly say, I've worked in a lot of industries, mostly because I apparently can't hold a job. And yeah, I met Tammy, my business partner. It has been, 20 some years ago. And we each had our own company, and we eventually got to this point where we were doing so much work together, and we had a couple acquisitions where we said, we're managing 5 brands. This is silly. Let's all put it under one. And that's how Become More was kind of came to be.
I love it. I was wondering, I was like, are they married? Are they just
No,
working?
we are not married. Some people make that mistake, and we both are like, ew, we're like brother and sister.
That's
Right?
great.
She has her husband Michael, I have my wife Beth, and like we both have been married like 30 years. And so it's so funny to like people are like, I think they're married. No.
Yeah, no, my husband and I are 30 plus years now. And I joke, I was like, we used to run to bed to fool around. Now we run to bed to try and fall asleep
Oh
before the
yeah.
other starts snoring.
Yeah.
So, times
Nice.
change. That's so funny. Okay, so great. Okay, so let's get into it. How do you use humor in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, yeah. What's funny, I love to think of myself as humorous. Now I do have a little bit of dark humor, so I have to kind of manage that apparently. Um,
No.
I think for me, I would say 2 ways. I will use it to lighten the mood,
Yeah.
right? If things seem to get a little tense, I will do that. I suppose a psychologist would say maybe it's a defense mechanism, but I'm not a psychologist, so
Right.
I can't claim that. I don't know if that's true
Yeah.
or not. But most of the time it really is. I have found it is a way to just let off some steam, lighten the mood, like let's chill out a little bit, let's have a little
Yeah.
chuckle, seems to make time go a lot easier from my perspective.
It really does. It really is that pressure valve. And you know what? Dark humor, like I find so many jobs that are really high pressure use a lot of dark humor, whether it's military, whether it's medical.
Yeah.
Those are nurses, the darkest, craziest sense of humor. So I get that. And I love the fact you're using it in your leadership style. Have you found that it really increases collaboration amongst teams when you're
Yeah, it does. And I think of course you have to be mindful. It can't be targeted humor where you're using it where like as a put down or a shot across the bow, right? Like
yeah.
if you don't have a strong relationship with that other person, like humor is not going to be the best tool and it may actually cause more harm than good. So you do have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is know your audience.
Yeah, oh
Like,
for sure.
yeah, like if you work, you and Tammy can have that rapport, that back and forth. You work together for 30 years, but
Right.
right. So I think that's really great advice, and really to always guys on the side of cautious, but at
Mhm.
the same time, I just did a show for millwrights, and they're machine guys, and I found a story where one of the millwrights, a machine broke down, and everyone was like, time was past. It wasn't like an hour or a shift. It was like 36 hours, and they
Oof.
couldn't get the part, and the factory was shut down, and people weren't talking, weren't looking at each other anymore. And then one of the millwrights actually taped a cardboard piece, like a piece of cardboard, to the machine and just said, trying to look busy until the part gets here. But then everyone started adding comments to it, like, still broken, now emotionally broken. And like it just kept going on. I mean, it didn't fix the part. They still had to wait. The pressure was still there, but it released the tension.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's very wise words from you. Can you give me an example, like, of a situation where you might have used humor and it did work?
Oh, I think I'm actually thinking of the group I was with yesterday. It's
Yeah.
a group of executives. They're a newer executive team, and so they're just starting to come together. And I asked a question, something about like, how do you know you're working on the right things? At your level, how do you know you're working on the right things? And they were all just like staring at me. And I just looked and I waited and I waited. I'm pretty comfortable in the silence
Yeah.
and and waited and waited. I'm like, okay, like either I didn't ask the right question or like I just like peed in their Cheerios. And I just looked at him. I said, okay, so what I can't tell is you all are quiet. Are you thinking about it? Are you worried about what you're going to say? Or like, have you fallen asleep?
Right.
And they all kind of looked at me and they're like, oh, you're right. Like, we're a little embarrassed to say, we don't want to say it. I'm like, well, hey, like the first step is admitting it. Like this is a 12-step program, right? And we all had a good chuckle about it. And like it got them to loosen up a little bit. And some of that
Yeah.
is when you're a new team and you're just trying to come together, it's like, do I really want to be vulnerable? Do I want to admit that to that person over there? I kind of don't know them. Are they going to judge me? And so
Yeah.
I have found in some of those cases, using a little humor can kind of soften it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I may just like point it at me.
Yes. And for them to know that they're safe doing it.
Yeah.
They're safe. It's a safe space. They can take that risk,
Yeah.
right? They can start talking. So
Yeah.
I love that you softened it for them and said, it's okay to be here. It's okay to make a mistake. And especially at that level,
Yes.
the scrutiny, the eyes are always on them. And also you have that sort of juxtaposition where everyone's saying yes to them all the time
Yeah.
when they're that high up. And I think to have someone say, okay, what are we really being amongst their peers can be terrifying, but also really inspiring that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And you know what? Like, just another thing about your bio is, you left some cushy jobs to go on your own.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
brave. Like, that is brave. Like, a lot of people would just stay there until the end, until all the bonuses and everything else kicked in. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to go on my own now.
Yeah,
So,
I some of the folks I started working with in my first manufacturing job, um, they got bought out. So they had early retirement packages 2 years ago, and I told my wife, I'm like, oh, that could have been me. And then all I could think of is, what would I do then? Like,
yeah.
be retired? That sounds so weird to me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm the same way. I'm just like I feel like half the time I'm starting my career still. I'm
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? Like,
But I,
but it
I
keeps you
think the
young.
reality is, once you think you're done, you are done.
Yes.
And if you have
Yeah.
that in your mind, like you're done, you're toast. And
Yeah.
you hear so many stories about, well, I retired and I didn't have a plan, or I didn't stay active, whether that's physically active and or mentally active.
Yes.
Like yeah. I personally, I want a racehorse retirement. I want to be put out to stud, but my wife says no way.
I want to meet your wife. That's Do you find it really helps with collaboration?
I think to me, the precursor has to be some sort of relationship or a desire for a
Yeah.
relationship. And then, yeah, that humor, I find it breaks down walls. We can joke about it. I mean, they have a problem, and like, yeah, can we joke about it? Is it too soon? Is it not too soon? Let's just
Yeah. And
let's
do you
just
ever
put it
talk
out on the
about that when
table.
you're coaching leaders?
Oh, yeah. And sometimes you're coaching leaders and they're very serious and put together.
Yes.
And part of that is like, okay, let's lower the facade
Yeah.
and let's get real for a second. Like, you're the CEO of this company, or you're the owner of this company, and
Yeah.
it's lonely as hell,
Right.
right? You're making decisions that impact the lives of all of the
Yes.
people in the company, and you have a sense of responsibility to them and their families and their
Yeah.
livelihood, etc. And so there's a huge weight, and who do you have to talk to, and so, yeah, sometimes we need to just kind of joke a little bit about it, or
Yeah.
just look at it and say, Kate, like, you're being pretty serious right now. How serious is this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really, really serious. Okay. Or, well, now that I think about it, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And have you worked with someone who has inspired you to use more humor? Like, have you ever thought, or like when you were coming up in the ranks, did you
Yeah.
have a boss who was really funny who made you feel a part of something, or or team leader? Or
Boy, this is probably sound a
sorry,
little.
we're going off script here, people.
No, 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 it's totally okay. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, sorry, none of my bosses or none of my
No.
mentors are nearly as funny as I am.
Yeah, see, there you go. Which is why you're that boss now. I mean, they'd say 90% seven of leaders prefer working with someone with a sense of humor,
Oh, yeah.
and that those people are probably more likely to get promoted,
Oh,
and move up
interesting.
faster because they're building that trust and that
Yeah.
rapport. And, and even Stanford University now is teaching humor as a part of their leadership courses.
That's super cool. See,
Yes.
I was a trendsetter before I even knew it.
You were. That's my point. Yes, absolutely. I mean, what's the biggest difference between working with a team that generally is comfortable with humor and one that's still building trust?
Oh boy. I mean, if we're still building trust, I mean, it is like walking on eggshells, and it may not
Yeah.
be that delicate, but we're testing the waters. Like, when we talk about trust, we talk about it in levels, right?
Yes.
The first two levels are really getting to know each other. What's your name? What's your background? That kind of stuff. When you get into there's 5 levels. When you get into level 3 and 4, level 3 is I'm testing. And I'm really
Okay.
like, and when I say testing, it's okay, I'm gonna give a little bit of my opinion or perspective. And I'm gonna see, how do people react to that? Do they jump down my throat? Do
Right.
they say, tell me more? Do they accept my perspective? Or do they bite my head off? Well, if they bite my head off, I ain't sticking it out there anymore.
Right.
And so it is this piece of, when we're starting, all right, we might, make a little joke, or we may not call out some of the obvious things that, until we're in that level 4 where we're truly sharing, really sharing our perspectives, and the other people in the group or that other individual is accepting that, like they're truly listening to it,
Yeah.
not rejecting it and saying, "Hey, you're the craziest person ever." So to me, until you get to that point, I don't know that you can have a full out humor. And I would also say, like, even with our staff, because they have different perspectives, they don't, we have a couple staff, they don't fully understand my dark humor.
Right.
And so, like, I'm a little more cautious on
Yeah.
what I might suggest or say,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Absolutely.
it's going to be like, oh, that isn't their jam. So like, it is back to your know your audience, and it doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're stuffy. It just means their method of humor is not
Yeah.
mine.
Have you ever actually had it fail on you where you've actually had to say, okay, sorry guys.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. I mean, there's been times where this. Oh, this is. I'll give you an example of
I love it.
a
Go.
dark humor here. And of course, listeners are going to be like, "You said what?" And the problem is, I don't remember her name, but I was with a group of people, and we were talking earlier that day about dark humor, and they're like, "Oh, we love to hear your dark humor." And I'm like, guys, I don't know you that well. Like, we're not going to
Yeah.
go there just yet.
It's a
And
trap.
someone, and so yeah, that was in my mind. I'm like, it is a trap. Later that afternoon, somebody had got the alert, and it's the Olympic skier who, she's 40 something, trying to make a comeback, and I don't
I
remember
know
her
who you're
name.
talking about. Yeah.
Okay. And she was airlifted off the mountain prior to the Olympics. And they said, "Oh no, so and so can't, won't be able to be in the Olympics." I'm like, "Who's so and?" And they explained, and I've been following them. I'm like, "They can go to the Paralympics. What's the problem?"
Oh.
And they looked at me, and I said, "You all said you wanted to see my dark humor. There it is."
Yeah. There
And
you
they all kind of
go.
looked at me. They're like, "Yeah, that is dark." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
And
You
and
wanted it.
you all wanted it, and so, like, in that moment, it was like, "Uh-oh, wah, wah."
Yeah. I mean, I get that when people, because I do a lot of stand up still, and my club act is very different from my keynote speaking and my
Yeah.
corporate, completely different. One's clean, one isn't. And,
Yeah.
I get to a lot of gigs and they're like, speaking events, and they're like, no, we can take it, be dirty. But I always know there's that one person in the audience who's going
Yes.
to be offended. And I'm not there to do that. I'm there to inspire. I'm there to lift.
Yeah.
I'm there to say we can bring humor into the workplace without telling a joke.
Yes.
Right. To me, it's making people feel comfortable and not alienating anyone.
Yes.
Right.
There is,
So,
yeah. And it's that, if you really think people, you when you talk stand up, you think there are some comedians that there's a group of, I think, like Jimmy Carr, Anthony Jeselnik,
yes.
their mode of comedy is not going to be for everyone.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Everyone has their, and especially when you're going into coach smaller groups,
Mhm.
I hate doing, it's so much pressure. I hate doing stand up in small groups because so much pressure on people to laugh,
Yeah.
right? You just want to sprinkle it in like a little bit of salt here and there, and I think leaders, once they're doing that and bringing a little bit of themselves to it, really make people feel comfortable. And it's more about making, take your work seriously. You don't have to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah,
And I
for
think
sure.
that's sort of the message.
And I think there's this element of, am I being genuine?
Yeah.
Am I, you know, and do I care enough that I'm willing to be vulnerable or to share that information,
Yes. Yeah. And is it
right?
worth it?
And I my wife is a horse person, and so she sent me a video, that the short version of the video, it is about how many horses should you own, and it starts off one. Well, then it will be lonely, so you should have two. But if you ride one and you go away, then that one will be lonely. And so it gets to the end that, if you go and you have seven friends, that therefore you should have 10 horses. The right number is 10. So she says, based on this video, I should get a couple more horses. And my response to her was, yeah, you don't have that many friends. We're okay. And she's like, yeah, that's funny. Ha ha. Right. And so it is this place of,
Yeah.
she
How many
knows, like,
horses does she
no,
have now?
oh boy. She has 7.
Oh my gosh, you're a sucker.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. I
Well,
used to
and
ride when I was a kid.
that's what she does. So she does,
Yeah.
she integrates horses into mental health therapy.
Oh, that is so
Because
great.
that is her job. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, let her get 3 more. Why are you so stingy, Scott?
I know.
What's happening? Get your horses. Hi, it's Kate. I can't believe you made it halfway through the show. Look, if you or anyone you know would like to be a guest on Humor in the C-Suite, I would love to have you. So email me, kate@katedavis.ca. Have you struck a balance between, like, when you're coaching, say one-on-one, and you're really getting that rapport with someone, and when it is a group, do you find that your humor is different in those situations? Are you still following that sort of 5, building up the trust? And
I mean, I still think it's still building that. And I think, if and it probably depends on, if I really think about it, it really depends on what am I doing in that moment.
Right.
If I'm one-on-one, to me, I'm going to build up that rapport.
Yeah.
And we might have a little kind of chuckle as we start. Fine.
Right.
You have a group of 8 or 10.
Yeah.
I'll probably use humor sooner than I would one-on-one. If I'm doing a keynote or I'm doing a talk at a conference,
Yeah.
I am probably going to be a little more open,
playful,
to try and engage them and bring them in a little faster, because
Yeah.
you have 30 minutes or an hour with this group
Yeah.
of 3 or 4 or 500 people.
Yeah.
You don't get I don't get to slow
Yes.
warm up into it. You got to deliver right now. And
Yeah.
so to me, I think it's when do you turn it on and when do you not? And so I think the bigger the group, I'm probably going to turn it on sooner versus
Yeah.
a smaller group. Yeah.
And you know what? Building relationships, really, the quickest way to build trust is through humor. Bringing
Mhm.
everyone together in that moment, whether, it could be even like a Ted Lasso clip. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be you telling a joke. It could be a story. It could be,
Yep.
it could be something, a game that you bring to the meeting to sort of get them all, wide-eyed. And I saw this one speaker where they asked everyone to pull out their phones, and I actually use it now. And because everyone's always on their phones,
Sure.
and they get them to open their photos and scroll 4 times, and then they have to put their finger on a random photo, and tell the person beside them about that photo.
Oh, nice.
Right. But,
Very
it's
cool.
sort of a fun way, as long as there's no dirty photos.
Yeah.
But then I had one guy really laughing. I'm like, what is your photo? And it was just where he parked at the airport. I was
something
like,
we all do.
Exactly. So funny. So funny. It just got me giggling. So
Yeah.
there's lots of ways that and it's true. Like, how much time do I have? If you're a salesperson, you're going to be, quick to sort of bring them in, or if you're a keynote speaker, I totally agree. But if you have, 8 sessions with someone, you want to do it slow and really build that rapport and that relationship.
Yeah.
Do you and Tammy use a lot of humor in your relationship?
Well, she thinks she's funny. She's not that funny.
Now I got to have her on.
Yeah. I mean, I would say we do. She is, I would say she's more of a mother figure.
Right.
And she'll frequently, hey, you can't say that. Hey, that was too dark. Hey, what?
Right. Yeah.
And I think our humor, especially when we're one-on-one,
Yeah.
we're pretty direct with each other, and not in a mean way, but
Yeah.
we'll be like, hey, and it is funny because if we start doing that in front of staff will say, hey, mom and dad are fighting.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
what's so funny is we've never fought.
Right.
Now, there's been
Yeah.
times where it's like, I see that a little different, or I'm
Right.
not like I'm not there yet, or you've had more time, or I've had more time to like reflect on that, and so like, hey, I need to take a moment. And what we have found is when we're that open and direct with each other, the outcome is actually better
Wow. Yeah. 100%.
because we're pushing each other. Like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, if you did it that way, but I was thinking we do it this way. Oh, let me think about that. There's a little bit of humor, and I would say it's more direct humor.
Because you have that trust in each other because you've
Yeah,
known each other for that long.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
I love that. And it's all about that. What benefits have you personally experienced, you think, in your career from using humor?
I'm going to say a serious conversation, not a serious conversation,
Yeah,
but a
yeah.
serious conversation, right? People knowing that we can have that and chuckle a little bit and it can be a little light, I think puts people at ease. There's been times in my career where I've had yeah, I have to go research or I have to go investigate something serious and, an allegation or someone got injured or a customer is upset about whatever they're upset about.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that's tough and it's a serious thing. And you know what? If we can laugh about it, not laugh
At it, but
at it,
about it.
right?
Yeah.
About it,
Yeah.
you know what? People open up. People share. People will be like, "Oh, yeah." Right? I was at a organization earlier this week and we were walking around and one of the operators thought I was from their corporate office. And boy, they gave this our group an earful. And he said, if I wouldn't have to fix all of engineering's drawings, I could actually get twice as much done.
Wow.
And I said, so I have to ask you a question. Could you also get twice as much done if you didn't complain as much?
Wow.
And
What'd they
he looked
say?
at me, and a couple people were like, "You just said that to him, right?" And he chuckled about it, right? And it was an uncomfortable chuckle,
Yeah.
and I was trying to send the message like, "Dude, number one, I really can't fix it, your engineering problem because I don't work for you all,
Yes.
and you going on a 20-minute monologue is not helpful right now."
Yeah. I wonder if he changed his ways.
No, I
Yeah.
doubt it. He had I think I sensed he had a small amount of pride about how big of an asshole he could be.
Right. Yeah. There's always one in an office,
There is,
Yeah.
and I think it was a good learning moment for the group I was with because they're like, "Well, how do you manage that?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, here's the reality. He's passionate about what he's saying.
Yeah.
There's probably some truth in that.
Yeah.
Somewhere, and then we have to understand from there's probably something in engineering and there's probably some truth there. The reality is somewhere in the middle. Now, the other thing, ideally his leader or someone he trusts, also we need to talk to him about understand your message and
Yes.
your delivery is not allowing people to hear your message,
Wow. I love that.
right?
Yes.
So the tone, the tenor, your style is making people think, "Oh, you're a whiner."
Yes.
Therefore, there's going to be less interest to fix something.
And it's so true. And when you can sprinkle those humor in those moments, you're going to bring people in. That's when changes happen. That's when
Yeah,
people can see, when we connect with a bit of humor, it makes people want to help. It makes people want to create. It makes people feel inspired.
yeah,
And it's how sending that message in maybe a different way then would made a huge difference. So I think that's a great point. And you know what, I found this conversation so interesting because not only is it about humor, but it's really about the leadership style and what we can bring to it, and how humor helps with that collaboration, but it also when not to use it,
yeah,
and when to be cautious. And I think that's, it's like going to the symphony and really living in those moments of silence, those pauses. And I think that's what's so interesting about this conversation for me, because it's more, what are we stepping back from? We can step back from humor when this is happening or
Yeah.
this is happening, and then we can sprinkle it in or throw it in there, and really know your audience. So I've loved our conversation about this. I think it's going to have a lot of impact along the way for leaders. So we always like to end with the funniest thing that's ever happened to you. Do you have a story you can share with us?
Oh boy. I would say the funniest thing was probably when I was traveling
Yeah.
and I walked onto the plane and someone was sitting in my seat. And so I jokingly say to the flight attendant, because I usually try to bring humor in those moments. I said, "Hey, for reference, I am 6'3". I'm a pretty big guy.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I have some physical stature as well,
Yeah.
right? And I look at the flight attendant, and she's maybe up to my shoulder, tiny little gal, and I said, "Hey, what's the policy here? If someone's in my seat, can I pick them up and throw them off the plane?" And she looks at me and she said, like, at first she was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's mad." And she's
Yeah.
like, "No, no, sir." And I'm like, and I start chuckling. She goes, "Oh." She says, "Is
Eh,
someone in your seat?" I said, "Yeah, actually, someone is." I said, "And like, if they're trying to sit next to their spouse or something, and they like,
Yeah.
I really don't care. Now, if I have an aisle seat and you're going to put me into a middle seat, well, then I'm going to probably
We're
tell
going
you,
to fight.
pound
No.
sand." Uh, well, so what's funny is the guy then you can tell he's annoyed, and he's like, "No, you're not." Like, and he shows me his, and we have the same seat number.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, and I look at the flight, and I'm like, "How can that happen?"
Yeah.
And she says, "I don't know." And then I catch his flight number on his, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, man." I said, "This is probably gonna like shock you. This is not the right flight."
Wow.
And he's like, "What?" He was supposed to get on the plane that left that gate before.
Oh, no.
And so he totally missed his flight. Okay.
Where
And
was
so
he
of course he's
flying to?
panicked. He's panicked, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh," and she's so apologetic to me. And I look at her and said, the funny thing here is no one has stopped to say, how did he scan and get on this plane?
Yes.
And she looks at me and I said, "So I'm not sure, like, am I allowed to make a terrorist joke right now?"
Oh, my.
And she looks at me like her face is pale. She's like, "You cannot do that." I said, "I know, but
No.
it's kind of funny."
Yeah. Oh,
And
my
so, I
gosh.
mean, there's just these moments
Yeah.
and it was so funny because, of course, the guy is blaming everyone except himself,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
And I get it. Like, we've all been there. Hey, I went to the wrong gate, or the gate changed and the
Yeah.
app didn't update. Like, we've all
Yeah.
done something like that. So that's probably the most recent kind of humor, but
That's
yeah. And
crazy.
she was
That,
and what's so funny was, like, she was so sweet the rest of the flight,
oh, yeah.
right? And so you automatically get bonus points.
Yeah. Automatically, like first class, buddy. Let's go. I love it. That's amazing. That is so funny. Oh my gosh. And I wonder where he was going or where he was supposed to go.
I don't know. Yeah, well, back to the ticket agent probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was his new destination.
Oh my gosh. So thank you so much for being a guest. I really have loved our
Yeah.
conversation.